everybody.
Hey.
Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Spoiler Alert by Fan Service Apparel. I'm Jené.
And I'm Nick, and this is episode 19.
19, almost hitting 20.
Yeah.
I just want to say hello, everybody. I've missed you. The last couple episodes, Nick has decided to take solo, and it was awesome to hear his thoughts. But I'm back now, and we did take a little bit of a break. I'm sure you noticed. Sorry about that. We had the holidays, then we traveled, and then we got the coronavirus. But we're doing just fine now. Everyone's healthy and happy and good. But that did put a delay on things. We didn't feel much like doing a podcast when we were recovering.
Yeah.
But here we are, and we certainly have binge watched a lot of things
we have.
all of that time.
Yes, we have.
For example, Seinfeld.
Yes.
We started from the very first pilot episode,
and now we're on season 9.
Yeah,
we're
getting close to like all of it.
Which is interesting. Jené has never watched Seinfeld before. This is probably my...
Well, no, that's not true. I've watched lots of Seinfeld before.
Okay,
I've never watched it in order.
Okay.
Like this. It's more like when it was on TV, I'd catch an episode out of order, random, no context.
I get you.
You know, they'd rerun the really funny ones that everybody knows. Puffy Shirt, Soup Nazi. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So... it's like now I'm seeing the whole story arc. And, you know, a lot of sitcoms, especially from back then, maybe not so much anymore, but back then when they kind of counted on the fact that you were only going to catch episodes here and there, maybe, the overall arc wasn't like always so crucial. But it is really great to watch a show like this now and get all of that, you know, to understand... the backstory of things, because then you get more of the jokes that way too, because sometimes they make little jokes for the people who have been watching the whole time.
Yeah, there's a lot of richness that comes through when you're watching the later seasons, having watched it in order.
Yes.
Sponge-worthy.
Yes, that's a great one. That is a great one. So it's been really, really fun. You know, we've watched a lot of Psych as well.
Yeah, a lot of Psych.
That show still holds up, I have to say.
It does.
You know, not a lot of shows from the early 2000s I can watch now without feeling like, eh. But this one, Psych, is one that it's still funny. It's still good. The episodes are still, like, enticing mysteries where...
And it's funny because at least for me... you'll have an episode where you're like, oh, I remember this one. And then you're like, oh, I don't remember how it ended.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh, I remember this, but who did it? I don't remember.
Even though it's familiar, it's still new.
Right, yes.
I like that show. That show had such a profound impact on my childhood.
Yeah.
I binge watched that show when it first came out.
I know, yeah, and I feel like maybe even shaped some of your humor a little bit too.
Probably.
Reference-based humor, I think.
Reference-based humor, yes.
And there's a lot of references in that show sometimes where I'm just like, I have no idea what that is, because it goes quick.
Quick. What's interesting is that I remember watching something when the show was on that said that, you know, they were kids... They were too young to be referencing things from the 80s as they were referencing them, unless they were kids that were watching like reruns, you know, because they weren't.
That first season they're in their 20s, and it's in the 2000. It's like 2006. In the first season, I think. Yeah,
so they would have been very little in the 80s.
Right.
But they reference a lot of pop culture from the 80s that would have been kids that were maybe like 11 or maybe like 15. So they were on the younger side. I remember somebody did like a very in-depth analysis on like this reference is from this show, which would have been on when he was this age, and it was so. But yeah, I think even more so for us, a lot of those references, if they're early 80s.
Well, it's true because most episodes of Psych, maybe all of them, now maybe not all, but most start with a flashback of Sean as a little kid.
I think the early ones
and it's
did.
like, it says, we'll say like 1987, and he's like a little boy, like an elementary age boy at the end of the 80s.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, like, either... I mean, I guess you could make the case that he was watching some stuff, but...
Probably he was raised by his dad, who was a cop, and, you know, it was just him and his buddy, and...
Yeah, if anybody remembers what I'm talking about, please comment and let us know, because I there was something that talked about the references and the timeline of them.
That's really cool.
But anyways, all that to say, we have been watching a lot of older stuff.
Yeah.
As we've been recovering. But we've also been watching the Book of Boba Fett.
Yes.
And we have some thoughts.
We do. Now, if you really, really love the Book of Boba Fett, first of all, I'm sorry for the things we're going to say about it, because you're probably going to disagree with us. Spoiler alert, we're not big fans of the show as of right now.
No.
There's still room to change, but that's how we're at. That's where we're at with it right now. But also, if you do love it, I would really like to hear why. Like, genuinely. I'm not like being like, yeah, well, why do you even like it? No, I really do want to know, because I'm bummed that I don't like it more.
Yeah, I was ready for a companion piece to the Mandalorian.
Me too. I was ready to fall in love with this. Be really excited about this legacy character.
And, you know, I think I brought this up maybe when we were watching an episode. I was getting some Ginny Weasley vibes, where she was cast.
So explain what you mean. Bonnie Wright, was cast
as Ginny, and she
had one line.
She had one line, so it was not very crucial how good of an actress she was. And then this character got expanded and became somebody that had more lines, and that's not really how they cast it. And
the actress stayed in the role as she became.
And all of a sudden, it's like
bigger character.
This person who was not a very good actress has to carry a lot bigger of a character, and it really ends up falling short. And I think maybe that happened somewhat with this, where the actor that plays Boba Fett works really well in an ensemble cast when there are other big heavy hitters, and he's just kind of like this strong silent type.
Now I don't know this actor well. I know he's from New Zealand. I know obviously he was Jango Fett in episode 2, right? And he also did I know he did a voiceover in Moana as Moana's dad. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, did he really?
I think he was Moana's dad.
Okay.
Yeah, there were a lot of like New Zealand actors, Polynesian actors, you know, other like indigenous people actors to do voices for Moana, which is really cool. And he was in that. That's all I know him from. I don't really know if he's done a lot of other stuff.
It just feels like he's playing one criticism is that it feels like he's playing that strong silent type still, and now there isn't a big ensemble to kind of help share the load, and it's feeling very flat because we're not getting a lot from him, and when we do get something, it just doesn't feel quite right, you know? Like, I don't know what that moment where he was like talking about the Rancor, and he's like, and the Danny Trejo is like, they're majestic or something, and you know, the witches of whatever used to ride them, and he's like, I will learn to ride it. And I'm like, am I supposed to be feeling something right now? Is this supposed to be like a really big like wow moment? Because this just feels like community theater, like these two guys are not really giving each other a lot to work off of, and I didn't feel any kind of wow that he's gonna learn to ride the Rancor. I'm like, great.
Like, it's almost like, sure, if Boba Fett, it was like if we had known, if this were like a prequel story, and Boba Fett is someone who rides a Rancor, and we're seeing this is where he first bonds with that character. Like, it had like that kind of weight, but that's not the case.
No, and again, I was I'm like looking around thinking, am I supposed to be having a different reaction at this scene? Because to me, this just feels like a really dry scene. And I guess that's most of the tone is very dry feeling.
Yeah.
And then, you know, another criticism when he's in, I'm just going to say Jabba's palace, that kind of main room where he's sitting in the chair.
And his like throne.
Yeah, that feels like a fan film that was made on an old set because there's no atmosphere. There's no I get it in the story why he doesn't have, I don't know what you'd call it, like people in his court.
A posse or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
you know,
like
just
a crew.
Yeah, or not even a crew, but like Jabba's palace had like a court, you know? You had
Yeah,
people,
that's true. It was full of people.
full of people. There was a kinetic
Nefarious
energy.
people.
People like lounging and laughing, and all those alcoves were filled. And I again, I understand that they're not there, but to not have them there, where you have this guy that's not really giving you a lot, excuse me, as a character, it's starting to feel really empty from a character perspective, from a set dressing perspective, not set dressing, but from a, you know, composition perspective.
No, it's true, and I think we've all probably watched a fan film, Star Wars film, or two. There's so many out there, and there's people who do it for fun, and they put a decent budget in it and stuff. But again, it still
can't
feels
pay for the people.
That's what you see. You see like two people sitting in a cool set that they were able to find. But that's it. And that is, I do agree with you that it does kind of feel that way. And yes, it makes sense. So like that, yes, we know that. We know it makes sense. I don't know. I think that the parts I've enjoyed the most are his flashback dreams in the Bacta tank, where he's
with the sand people,
with the Tuscans, and there's been no dialogue in those scenes,
which is great.
But they're powerful scenes. Are really good.
He's kind of feeding off of the character work of the
excuse me,
of the sand people. You know what I mean? Like that shows the dynamic that's supposed to work, which is why I think we like those more. He is kind of one of the many characters that we are learning about, and there's more stakes. There's just more going on, and I almost wonder if this wasn't meant to be cut together this way, this back and forth, but when they put it together in order and they said, okay, these first couple episodes are going to be his kind of like comeback, and then boom, these last couple are going to be his everyday life. It was really, really good, and then it just fell flat, and they thought, oh, okay, we got to cut it together, because I get the story kind of the plot device of this back and forth. I don't really feel like it's adding a lot. It's not really making the story richer.
Well, you're right, because every episode has these flashbacks, and it's not a 2-minute scene. It's the majority of the episode, I think.
Yeah, the modern stuff seems to be really kind of dialed back.
You mean present day?
Present day, yeah. So, yeah, I'm wondering if maybe the too much of the present day, when it was all kind of cut together, really didn't. And this whole thing with like the Pikes and this, like, there's a war.
I mean, I can get with that. Like,
I can get with that
Star
too. Star
Wars has always had kind of like a tone of political.
No, I like
and,
that.
You know.
But again, all those guys sitting on the thing, all those like syndicate bosses or the.
When they have this table meeting.
That, again, the stakes didn't feel high to me. I was, I don't know if it was...
You're right, because it seems to just be that the Pikes want the territory for spice. Because they're spice runners and they just want the territory, right?
But
that's what I'm getting.
I didn't feel the tension between him and the other people where they're like, will you join me? Don't stand in my way. Like, let's come to an agreement. I wanted like a Tony Soprano level of like, I am carrying the mantle here. This is what's gonna happen.
Who's gonna stick to their word? Who's gonna back out? Something a little more interesting.
Yeah, with like Sopranos or with like Succession, you watch those shows, and at their core, they're. I mean, Sopranos is a little bit different, but more with Succession, most of the scenes are just people in a room talking. Like, there's nothing crazy going on. There's no special effects. It is people
It's
in a
not
room.
action. It's not,
No,
yeah.
it is just people talking, which on paper can seem pretty boring, but they find a way with the acting, with the camera work, with, the dialogue to really build something that puts you at the edge of your seat with two people in a room. So, and this is people in space. Like you have all the tools in front of you to make this like super high tension mob bosses meeting type of
and
thing.
see, I thought we were
And
going to get that.
And I felt like that scene was just like, why should we listen to you? I want to rule with peace. You're like, okay, this again. Oh, the rancor. Oh, I gotcha. I don't know. It just, again.
Okay, and I thought we were going to get this power dynamic, interesting thing with the Hutt twins.
Yeah.
Then they came, they were like, oh, don't mess with us. We got a decree. We've got assassins. We've got a whole thing. We've got a scary Wookiee. And then like, what is it? The next episode, they're like, all right, never mind. All is good. Bye. Our people are going to carry us away now. Oh, and the Wookiee can just be a dude.
And then they're like, oh, somebody else wants this land, and I think it's going to be like the Pikes is going to be a red herring. Pun intended, because they're like fish people.
That was good. That was good.
For Crimson Dawn, and we're going to get what's-her-face from Solo show up at the end. That's my, like...
No, yeah. I mean, maybe.
That's my
feeling. I was
feeling.
excited at the end of this last episode that we got kind of a Mandalorian cliffhanger. That we were like, he's going to come into this show now.
Gosh, I hope so.
They played his cue. They hinted about it. I mean... I don't know how or why, but, I think we're going to get some of that, and that's going to help liven things up. I will also tell you my biggest gripe with this show is the fact that we have not one, but two motorcycle gangs.
Yeah.
This
the first
feels so out of place in this universe.
The first one
it drives me nuts.
I remember, distinctly that there was like a rule that like nothing in Star Wars can feel like anything from our world. Like it just has to be. It's just different.
Right.
The speeder bikes and the biker gang, I didn't like, but I could move past that.
Well, they even called them a speeder bike gang. And I'm like, you're saying a biker gang. That's not a thing.
And they're wearing like leather jackets.
With patches on the back. I'm just like, what? And then, so you get that. I'm mad about that. I forgot what that speeder bike gang is called. I don't know what they're called. The ones with the symbol who he like beat up in the bar, which was also very anticlimactic. I was like, ooh, here we go. We got like a fight scene in a bar, and then it just was like, no, never mind. It's done. And then you get these stupid cyberpunk cyborg
dudes
80s
with like
kids
floating Vespas.
With a million mirrors on them.
With the mirrors that's like reminiscent of like a...
And bright colors, and like they've got 80s haircuts.
Like a British punk scene with the when they had the Vespas.
I hate it. I hate it.
It just was... It felt like it was way too... not contemporary, but like real.
Like, we've got this main girl in this gang with her like 80s shag haircut, tons of black eyeliner, like a leather vest.
They have Vespas. They have floating Vespas.
I know.
They're not even I have not seen
in like candy colors.
Yeah, in candy colors, which everything in Star Wars was supposed to be like old and like really ratty and just like it's like old tech. It's like worn in, well worn.
Yeah.
Also, this is supposed to be like a garbage nothing planet. We have never seen anybody with anything interesting. In episode 1, when they arrived in that like Federation ship or whatever that was like chromed out, it like blew everybody's mind because it's like that's not what's around here. And really, we hadn't seen anything since because it was such an outer rim planet.
No, Tatooine.
Why
we all are familiar with Tatooine so much that to see this drives me crazy.
These people belong on like a bigger planet.
Naboo, maybe.
not even Naboo. Well, maybe like
I
Naboo
don't know,
now.
but
I don't know. But
Naboo is what we've seen of it is more like Renaissance-y.
they're just the colors, like the
Oh
cherry,
yes,
like
yeah.
the candy coating paint
Blue, red,
for a
like
dusty
yeah.
outer rim planet. To me, makes little. How did they get that paint?
I don't
Where
know.
they get like, excuse me, like everything in Star Wars feels very repurposed and worn in, and these speeder bikes seem purpose built. The rear view mirrors, I haven't seen little like actual Vespa rear view mirrors like that on anything. They don't really use mirrors like that, and
No,
somehow
it doesn't look like Star Wars. It looks like
and then at the end of that
a
fight scene,
motorcycle or a scooter.
that guy crashes into those fruits
The
like Back to the Future with the.
No, I hated it when the one guy
gosh.
went through the painting, and I was like, are we kidding? This is like
Total Wayne's World kind of reference.
it's just such a trope. The whole chase scene.
Let's move this painting.
I was like,
oh,
I know.
No.
I just, it's driving me crazy. During that entire chase, I was sitting there like, mouth open, hands up in the air, going, "What is happening? What is the tone of this show? Because is it very, very serious and people are dying, or is it like goofy? I'm driving my scooter through a painting.
Yeah,
What?
Yeah. See, Mandalorian was very much a Western, and it was well done as a Western. Book of Boba Fett with the crime.
What is the tone of this show?
I assumed, I guess incorrectly, that the tone would be like a mob show. It would be Sopranos, but in space, because he's taking over like this crime family.
Mob, yeah.
And he's got like little people now,
right?
In different carrying like different sections, and somebody's coming in on their turf, and then you could probably have like some kind of connection like you would in Sopranos with like New York interfering with Jersey, and like he's over here and you got some bigger guy. Like this was so ready to be a Sopranos type mob show as a companion to the Western show. It would have been such an easy tone, and yet yeah, we have this like.
And there's already essentially their version of drugs, spice, right? That could be, that alone, just like spice dealings and territory, like that makes it an interesting show alone. And they're not using that to the full. And I'm disappointed because I really wanted to like this. Because Boba Fett is cool.
It is cool.
And
I don't know.
I like that we saw how he got out of the Sarlacc pit. I mean, that was cool. It was kind of crazy when we went back, and I was like, "There's about to be a jump scare. There's about to be a jump scare."
Oh yeah.
I
thought it was crazy when you watched that and you're like, "This is like Patton Oswalt in Parks and Rec. This is exactly like he remember." Yeah, that episode of Parks and Rec where the Patton Oswalt's character in the show is like in a city council meeting talking about his fan fiction about how Boba Fett survives the Sarlacc pit.
Oh!
And people online have lined up the beginning of this show with him talking, and it's almost like shot for shot what he had described in his fan fiction like almost 10 years ago now.
Oh my gosh, yes. I love that.
It's almost like they started with that, and then they're like, how do we build a show around that? But anyways, I hope it's better. I hope the rest is better.
I hope so too. I mean, obviously we're still gonna watch it.
We're still gonna watch it.
We're still gonna watch it. We're gonna stick with it. Yeah, we are.
I'm waiting for the Harry Potter movies now.
Harry Potter. I mean, I feel like that's gonna be just in talks for a long time.
Wizarding World movie for HBO. I don't know. They're really trying to move past the original book series, and I think they're trying to move somewhat past J.K. Rowling. And if they come up with these kind of like adjacent movies, I'd watch that.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think that's everything we have to say about the show.
And that we're just hopeful that it gets better.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Another thing we have watched that I'm sure all of you have probably watched by now is Encanto.
Oh, yes.
And this movie, I think we do need to take a little minute and talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't talk about Bruno, but we do talk about Encanto. This movie, I initially saw a lot of criticism right off the bat. The first reviews that came out, like when it premiered, the movie reviewers, had a lot of negative to say.
Yeah.
But as people have watched it, and are resonating with it, it's having this like slow rise to popularity instead of the normal like Disney like boom big success.
Yeah.
And you know what I recall is Frozen having the same kind of thing.
Did it really?
I feel like it came out in theaters at first and everybody's like, yeah, I don't know. And then it was like people started going, hey, wait, no, I loved it. You should see it. Yeah, you should see it. Should I see it? Oh, yeah, I loved it. And then there was kind of this slow success, which is interesting, too, because we don't talk about Bruno.
Uh-huh.
It reached higher on the charts than Let It Go did.
Yeah.
Which really is amazing. So you've got the genius of Lin-Manuel Miranda, and you just can't go wrong with that. But I do think that maybe the movie critics, movie reviewers who had the first stab at it after premieres
were all old abuelitas.
maybe
they just didn't get it, and they're like, I don't know about this movie.
Or they were people who, they've just lived a different life. They maybe have lived a life of privilege, of family security, of things where they see this movie and they don't relate. And one of the biggest things I saw was like people were like, there are plot holes. There are plot holes in this movie. I'm left with questions. There's, what is her gift? What happens in the end with this and that? And it's like, but that isn't what the movie's about to me.
Yeah, which to me further cements the idea that this is actually a Broadway musical that is...
I fully agree.
That is disguised...
That was animated first before being cast on a stage.
Exactly. But the way that the songs progress the story itself, this screams to me Broadway, because Broadway has...
And the amount of lead characters. There's so many leads.
It's like it was designed to be on Broadway. And that first song, where we have like the little kids that are talking to her because they're kind of the voice of the audience asking the questions. Yes. I'm like, okay, wait a second.
Yeah.
This is a Broadway production.
Real musical.
I'm watching a Broadway.
It's not just a movie with music. It is a musical.
It's a musical, and from that point on, I was like, oh, I'm starting to see it in a different way, and just the fact that within the first, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes in a normal Disney movie, you're like, oh, we have our story, we know what the beats are going to be, and we're on our path forward. This is the path we're taking. In this movie, 25 minutes in or so, you're like, I still don't really know what this movie's about. I don't know what the major...
Who's the bad guy? What's the conflict?
What's the conflict?
It is not as straightforward as...
What's going to be the rising action that's going to be leading us to a conflict with who?
Right.
With what? I love it. I love that, which is not typical for a Disney movie with music, but it is more common in a Broadway musical.
Right.
Like Cats. That just sucks.
Like Cats. Well, you go. There you go.
Anyways.
Not a great comparison, actually.
It's like almost identical.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways.
No, but I think the more important message of this movie is not about hitting those beats of a typical Disney movie. It's not about black and white, good and bad, and the bad guy gets defeated and good wins in the end. Like, that's not it at all. This entire movie is a metaphor, and it's bringing up important points about
generational family trauma.
Exactly.
And really, as long as that beat is hit, really everything else is serving that purpose. So if there are plot holes, it didn't matter because it didn't need to happen in service of that theme. That
Right.
theme is what this movie is about.
Yes.
Which is, I love that too. It's so not straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
I love that in
It's
in
true.
a, in a day where in a day and age where we have a lot that is very straightforward. This really like made you think, and you almost had to play catch up if you were rating for like a Finding Nemo where like the beats are very spelled out for you.
Sure.
You weren't gonna get that.
Right.
Um,
No, it's
Yeah.
not. It's not the hero's journey. It's not boy meets girl, falls in love. You know,
no.
it's not like it's none of those things. It's not a princess story. It's not. It's something different, and it's really beautiful. It's really beautiful, and I also feel like it's one of those movies that deserves a second watch.
It does. It does.
So if you watched it once and you weren't sure,
Watch it again.
watch it again.
Yeah.
Watch it again. Yeah.
And in my opinion, the most unrealistic part of that movie is the grandmother coming around at the end of the movie. Because I don't know if you know old Spanish women, but they don't turn on a dime like that.
They don't say sorry.
I was like, wait a second. Now this is a fantasy movie.
You're like, I was okay with the dancing donkeys. This is ridiculous.
The lady picking up the church, that's fine. Latin grandmother coming around on her mistakes? No,
Never gonna happen.
No. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's funny.
That was a stretch.
All right. Well, I think that about sums it up. This was great. We're glad to be back, and we're glad to have you guys back.
Keep an eye out in the coming weeks. We're going to have some new merch coming out and kind of a new cadence, a new schedule to how we get merchandise out. Hoping to get stuff out more regularly to everybody. As always, check us out, fanserviceapparel.com.
And may I suggest Valentine's Day, if you and your significant other love WandaVision, get some matching Wanda and Vision hats, or the keychain with the heart.
The keychain with the heart makes a good gift.
Yes.
We wore our matching Wanda and Vision hats when we go to Disneyland.
Yes, absolutely. We also, if you're a Lore Olympus fan couple, we have Underworld Con mugs, one in Persephone pink and one in Hades blue. You can have matching coffee mugs. And if you are single and proud of it, you can get yourself an I'm not single, I'm waiting for Thor, or I'm saving myself for Thor shirt, which we have.
What a great shirt to wear on Valentine's Day if you're single. That's phenomenal.
Now would be a great time to place those orders so that you have it in time. I just wanted to put those ideas in your head. There's a lot of other stuff too. We have a really cute Minnie Mouse dress that would be adorable for a date if you're looking for a cute dress to wear on a date. Minnie Mouse inspired. It's retro. It's mod. It's got it's red with white polka dots.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of that design personally.
We also have a lot of just companion fan merch. So if you guys want to both have a fandom that you like together, you can have different pieces.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of like a more abstract couple's costume, you know?
That's true. Yeah. So when you love someone, you know what they love, what their fandoms are, and you support their crazy fandoms by getting them a bunch of merch because it's fun and it will make them happy. So you can find that with Fan Service Apparel. So check it out. All right, everybody. I can't wait to chat with you next week.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.